afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I am Just Kohli, co-founder of True Gradient, industry's first self-serve AI integrated planning platform. We have with us today Bruce Burrows, former CIO of the largest Canadian retailers, Loblaws and Sobeys, where he led major digital transformation programs, which created significant value for the company, employees, and customers. Bruce has left a lasting mark on many leaders who continue to look up to him. And I say that because when I meet retail and CPG leaders, there is almost always a high probability they know Bruce, and many share how he has positively impacted their careers or businesses. And thankfully, Bruce is also an esteemed advisor at True Gradient. Today, in this fireside chat, Bruce will share his top learnings from an illustrious career in retail, and we felt this is the right moment to bring his perspective forward now more than ever, as we are navigating a fast changing world shaped by AI and constant transformation. And as always, the fundamentals remain key. So, Bruce, thank you for being here. It's an honor. So, let's begin with the first question. So, Bruce, you have led digital transformations at two of the Canada's most iconic retailers, right? So, can you share with us what sparked the push for transformational programs at Sobeys and Loblaws?
Sure can. And thank you for the opportunity to be with the group this morning, Jazz. And nice to see you online. And Anchor, thanks for joining from Bangalore. It's interesting. When I joined Loblaws, they were a large regional retailer, and really the catalyst for everything that they pursued after I joined was really to become a strong national retailer and leverage their size and scale. And so that meant moving to national platforms, nationalizing their supply chain, moving to perpetual inventory at the shelf edge. And interestingly enough, when I left Loblaws after 10 years and joined Sobeys, it was the exact same mission. The company had fallen on a bit of hard time, and they had to nationalize. They had to look at how to run the business nationally and leverage their strength. And in Sobeys' case in particular, there was a real need to get better clarity and insight into how the business was running. Information was hard to come by, so there was a real drive to put information in the hands of the executives that needed to make decisions. But at the core of it, it was really about trying to leverage their size and scale in both cases and become national retailers that serve Canadians across Canada.
Got it. Got it. Scale, leveraging scale and insights. It also kind of goes on to say that how do we ensure that when the scale is going, information is also timely at your fingertips, and how you're able to leverage that information at that scale, right? So interesting. So, Bruce, I'm also curious that about the challenges you have faced on in your journey. Were there moments where the transformation nearly stalled or failed, right? And what did you learn from those situations? And how did you bring leadership and frontline teams along for the journey, especially in these programs when skepticism is typically high?
I mean, you know, technology is a change agent in most organizations. So it creates the catalyst for change.
Yeah.
But human beings at their core are resistant to change.
Yeah.
So the largest success or failure of a program is typically tied to, or have we changed the behaviors of the individuals that we need in order to use the new capabilities and take advantage of those and gain the benefits that they should bring. And so, you know, I've not ever seen a technology implementation where the code and the application didn't go live. But what I have seen is application went live, people didn't use it properly, and benefits were not delivered. And so the biggest challenge that every organization faces when going through these kinds of transformations is clarity on the change,
Mm-hmm.
clarity on the messaging of
Mm-hmm.
why do we need to do this and what's the result we're trying to drive towards,
Mm-hmm.
and then specific work with the key areas of the business that have to go through the most change. And I'll give you a very simple example.
Mm-hmm.
At Loblaw, one of the biggest changes we went through was we were managing perpetual inventory at the store shelf edge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely contra to what the stores were used to because they were used to managing their inventory and ordering out of the DC. So
Mm-hmm.
they were now responsible for managing the perpetual inventory and ensuring it was correct, not entrusting the systems to have the data and have the product flow to their stores as demand requires it. This is a big change because you're used to controlling how much inventory I have. Now I'm just responsible for making sure my inventory is accurate and
Mm-hmm.
trusting the system. And so we saw a lot of stores trying to fill their shelves because they felt they didn't look as full as they used to. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality was they didn't need to have all that inventory in stores. So this is a big change management effort. And one of the areas we expected to see benefits was in inventory turnover, so faster turns, as
Mm-hmm.
well as improved margins because you weren't going to have the same kind of markdown to clear inventory that may be approaching its end dates. So it's a really good example of how do you get the behavioral change? And it's really about, I used to do it this way. This is what I'm comfortable with. And now you want me to do this. I have to learn how to do that and perfect this new way of doing it in order to drive the results that are there and trust that this change is going to work.
Great, great. Bruce, that really resonates. Change management, human behavior is underappreciated sometimes. Like you said,
Uh,
that one really hit me. Like there is not in your entire career, there was never a situation where the code did not go live, but the
Yep.
adoption is key, and it starts with simple things like communicating well with clarity. Why we're doing it? We're doing it to make your life better. You get more time to do more strategic work, and it's an enabler, right? So it is
Yep.
so understated, but it is so important, especially for transformation program, which is touching so many lives.
Yeah. And again, we don't like to change as much as
Yeah,
people say, yes, I
exactly.
love change. We don't. We like what we know.
Right,
Think about when you get your new iPhone and it's got some new capabilities, you get frustrated with it because it doesn't work to what you're used to. So it's change. And we don't
exactly.
like that. We are creatures of habit. And that's, and the
Indeed.
communication, as you touched on, Jazz, is the key element here.
Right.
Understanding it, communicating it, making sure the message is clear, the destination is clear, the why are we doing this is clear.
Right, right, right. Absolutely right. And we'll talk more. I mean, it is only going to become even more important, I feel, because the trajectory and pace of technology evolving now is even faster, and the gap is widening. So
Yeah.
I feel now that human element of change and communication is going to become even more important in today's age. I mean, fundamentals, like I said, always remain, but this one is super important.
I would
Interesting.
agree. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. So, Bruce, I'm sure you have several wins in your career, but can you share a specific transformation which is close to your heart and that delivered strong results, which the audience can kind of learn from?
Yeah. I mean, I point to two different ones actually, and they're actually big programs. So the
Mm-hmm.
one was the SAP program at Loblaws. And it was a massive undertaking. It took us 5 years, and we transformed every corner of the business from stores to DCs to merchants to finance to HR.
Mm-hmm.
And there was obviously, peaks and valleys in there. We had an ROI that we had set at the beginning of the program, and we delivered that ROI. And if you track Loblaw and its business performance, the foundation was laid for that organization to become what it is now. Acquire Shoppers Drug Mart, integrate Shoppers Drug Mart, and become a $60 billion retailer
Mm-hmm.
on the back of the foundation that was built during the time that we went through that transformation. They couldn't
Mm-hmm.
have gotten to where they are from where they had started. They had to nationalize.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great example of an entire company, very strong leadership right from the CEO down as to
Mm,
what we're doing, why we're doing this, get on the bus now because the
mm,
bus is pulling out of the station.
mm,
And I'd say the area that we didn't do as well, but we learned as we went through it is the whole change management piece. So I spoke about some of the challenges we had in the stores.
mhm,
It's a good example of we didn't recognize that and train to that as well as we could have, but we course corrected. So
mm,
these journeys they are not fast and there's time to course correct, but you got to recognize things that need to be changed and go and focus on those.
mm.
The other one I would point to is the launch of Scene, which is the loyalty program that Sobeys uses, and it is jointly owned by Sobeys, Scotiabank, and Cineplex. And it was determined that in order to get closer to our customers, we needed to have a loyalty program. We
Mm,
didn't have one. And
mm,
so we sought out the right partnership, and we believe Scene was that. Then we had to build a loyalty program and launch it across Canada. You know, I think I've seen great collaboration in the past, but this was a really good example of strong business and technology collaboration to deliver something to our consumers. And it was flawlessly rolled out across all the regions to deliver the success that it was intended to, which was increased basket size, greater consumer loyalty,
mm.
greater engagement from the consumer. So another nice success story. But there's some key themes in what ultimately makes these things successful.
Right,
I
right,
mentioned
right.
a little bit earlier, programs need to be business led because after all, technology is an enabler. It's not that
Yes.
we're not in the business of technology. We're in the business of selling things to consumers.
Mm,
And so if the
mm,
business isn't leading this, because they're the ones that need to change, you're likely not
mm.
going to succeed. So it must be
Yeah,
business led and
correct.
technology enabled. So there's a strong partnership there, but it has to
Mm,
proceed that way. The second, and we've talked about this, you need to understand what is, what are we trying to change? What is the value we're trying to generate?
mm,
Because that's the why. Why are we
mm,
doing this? Why are we
mm,
putting ourselves through this painful journey? Because it's hard. And why are we spending this money? And how will we measure this? Because it's important that you can show at the end,
mm,
did we get what we said we were going to? Because that then is the confirmation that it was worth it.
mm,
Then how do you make people change and how do you help people change? And what's that transformation got to be?
mm,
And then in all cases, those two big ones I mentioned, you need to go live as quickly as you can because you're going to learn as you go live. But you want to get into the marketplace. There's only so many things you can test in the laboratory. You
mm,
need to put it into the market and see what happens, and then learn and and adapt and fail fast, change fast, and continue to evolve. And then stage your rollouts regionally because it's too big a journey to try and make everything go at one time. And you
mm.
learn a lot along the way about how to make it. We had a saying at Loblaws, which we carried over to Sobeys, let's make this a boring go live, which meant that everybody didn't have anything to do when we flipped the switch.
Right, right, right.
So, and so piloting and learning and then rolling out as you gain more
Yeah.
knowledge is a real critical area of making your transformation successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, the last one really hit me because we crawl, walk, run, as they say, right? And coming out of the lab, is when you're gonna get real insights, right? And but you
Yes,
can take calculated risks,
right.
and that will give you a flavor of the real world. Also, you were talking about seeing loyalty card. Most of the Canadians in this one can relate with that. I am a loyalty member, and I saw Ankur's eye lit up because he's a loyalty and personalization expert. He implemented those solutions at Walmart.
Yes.
And you another thing which you said, Bruce, which is very, very interesting, is it has to be business led, because if they believe in it and if there is a buy-in, then then it will not be forced on them, right? It will come naturally, organically, right? They feel it that it's going to help them. And that can have a very, very different outcome, I believe, as compared to something which is being pushed and is IT or technology driven. That's well
Yep.
said. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Interesting. So, Bruce, if you have to, if you must advise retailers or CPG leaders who are starting their digitization and AI journey today, what's the first step you would recommend? And yeah, so let's start with that. And I have a follow up, but let me start with that first.
Yeah, ultimately, it's really about the data,
Yeah.
and you know, it's been a long understood issue that the data companies have is not well organized and not always as accurate as it needs to be. But you cope for it because you had people interpreting and working with the data and call it correcting it or adjusting it. The challenge is we're now moving at a pace and we're using technology to do things that we need to have our data organized and need to have it right.
Mm,
Otherwise, we're going to be getting, garbage in, garbage out. So get your data right, get your data organized, get it in one place, get your data model set,
yeah.
get your data quality dashboards in place, get the data stewards in place so the ownership is there and you know that the data you're relying on is accurate.
Mm,
And so I think that's kind of stage one is you
yeah.
really got to
Right.
understand your data and you got to
Yeah.
get it organized and got to get it right.
Yeah.
The second one for me is you need to be thoughtful about what you're doing.
Mm,
Yeah, I remember, so I'm old enough to have seen the beginning of the move to cloud.
right.
And it's kind of interesting. I now get to see the emergence of agentic AI.
Right.
But when you
Yeah.
move to the cloud, it was this feeling that it's free. You
Yeah.
can just run stuff in the cloud, and then people started getting bills, and you started to see, wait a minute, why
Yes.
am I,
I
why are
know.
my hyperscaler costs going up so much? Well, because it's not free,
Right.
and there's a real tendency to think that way about agents. Oh, I can build
Yeah.
an agent easy because you can build some of the simple ones you can do
Cost
with
it.
it's natural language, so you can
Yeah.
easily do this. And so, yes, but they cost money.
Cost money.
And
Correct.
so,
That's
in
trade
a
offs.
similar way,
Yeah.
why am I
ROI.
building this agent? What am I doing? What are the benefits I'm getting from this?
Yeah.
It's going to cost me X. What's it going to save me Y? And
Yes.
does that
Yes.
equation make sense? So
Yeah.
it is not free. That's the thing
Yeah.
I think that people lose sight of a little bit, that everything costs money and you got to stay on top of that.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I was reading that, as we all know, with advances in agentic AI, building is going to become coding, shipping code going to be faster than ever, right? But it's not about that, right? It's about building something relevant with something which is an ROI. And like you said, everything has a cost, right? So you can
Yep.
get quickly very busy building so many features, but is it useful to the business, right? So that is a very, very important question, which I think leaders, need to know. And Bruce, one last question, right? I mean, obviously we're living in the AI era, and it's an exciting time for CPG retail leaders or leaders in journal and even technologists. But are there any words of caution regarding AI hype versus reality?
Hmm. I think a couple of comments on that,
Yeah.
Jazz. I mean, one is there's been, at the beginning of this year, I was at a conference with one of the companies that I do advisory services work with.
Hmm.
And at the time, they were talking about, agentic AI is coming. Well, I was
Hmm.
at another conference about 3 months later, and it's here. It's not that
Hmm.
it's coming; it's actually here.
Yeah.
And so the pace
Hmm.
of change is, and you mentioned it earlier. The pace of change now is significantly faster than the pace of change when think the Industrial Revolution, and then all the other things that have come along over time and impacted human behavior and human beings. And so, what does AI really do? It democratizes technology. I was talking to someone, a friend of mine, who was a startup, and he said, I can do now what used to take 30 coders to do.
Absolutely.
I mean,
We
think
can see.
about that.
Yeah.
And at the pace you can develop and create at the
Correct.
speed of your knowledge and your thinking.
Yeah.
But you also need to take ownership. Large language models are interesting, but they're not flawless.
Yeah.
and they're helpful, but they're not flawless.
Mm,
It's still your output. It's still what you are communicating, saying, using. So you still need to be owning that. And I think there's a tendency for people to go, well, that's what ChatGPT said. Well,
mm,
no, 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 that you can't defer to the technology. You have to take ownership of that. I think it's a great product, but you need to say, yeah, is that how I want to say it? Is that right? Is that the right way to phrase it? Is that the thing that I want to be doing? So that's, I think, one of the watchouts is technology doesn't absolve you of your ownership of what's happening, whether it's code development or whether it's writing a speech or writing an essay if you're in university, preparing your resume. All those things are helpfully they're made easier by the technology now, so it's a better quality product that's coming out. However, you need to make sure it's accurate and reflects you, because it will over time, as we know, start to learn and become more personalized and more knowledgeable on the individual that it's working for. But it takes time to train it and do that. So that would be what I would say, I think, Jazz.
mm. Perfect. No, it makes a lot of sense. I think we human in the loop and
Yep.
like yeah, human in the loop, and then the potential in the future is AI and human coexisting, and human ensuring that reviewing the output, ensuring it is meaning it is making sense, and together they become a multiplier, right? So we call about 10x human, right? So the future is
Yep.
going to be 10x human. People who are able to use AI are going to become the 10x superhuman, right? So that's the new world we're kind of
Yep.
entering into. Amazing. So, thank you so much, Bruce, for the insights. If I have to perhaps quickly touch on the key themes and then open up also for the audience, we've got 5 minutes, but I think we started with saying, your biggest transformations push came when, these largest retailers, Sobeys and Loblaws, they were looking to nationalize, they were looking to scale. And while scaling, also, how do you ensure insights and information comes time in a timely manner? So scale was the map. Second thing which you kind of highlighted was in all these transformation programs, change management, communication is super, super important. And it still was the fundamental, still is the fundamental. The third thing I think which really resonated with me personally is that business led. The programs has to be business led. Businesses have to own it, so that they drive it, and technology is an enabler. And the why from the leadership should be super clear. Why are we doing it? What is the ROI? So that clarity of thought is super important. And then you also spoke about come out of the lab, right? Crawl, walk, run approach. Do a pilot, take calculators, come in the real world and see things, and that is important. And we also spoke about what should be the first step people should take. We spoke about the fundamentals again, data, right? Garbage in, garbage out. We always also say this in my entire career that you can have the most sophisticated, fancy AI model, but if the underlying data model is suboptimal, the outcome will be suboptimal. So again,
Yep.
fundamentals, right? Super, super important. And last, we spoke about human in the loop, reason, how human and AI can coexist and be to 10x human. So fantastic. Those are the takeaways which I took. So for the audience here, if you could, there is a chat window which is open, and if you could ask Bruce, a former CIO of two iconic retailers here, one question about digital transformation, what would it be? You can put it in the chat window, and we have 3 minutes here, and we can take it. And if there is more, we can always take your emails later. Okay, Ashish is asking a question here, and the question is, how do you manage scope change during transformation initiatives? Ashish is from, I think I know Ashish, but not sure. But yeah, I think he's a CPG leader, supply chain leader, and that's his question, Bruce, for you. How do you manage scope creep during transformation initiatives?
And again, I come back to what is the benefit of doing this?
Yeah.
In every situation, you're going to have I wants and needs. I want
Yeah.
this. Well, that's interesting, but do you need it? And why do you need it? What would be the impact be if we didn't
Hmm.
do this?
Hmm.
And we also have in the companies I put was doing change in, we had, depending on the size of the change, had to have higher and higher level of feedback or higher and higher level of decision making. So in some cases, the decision had to be made by the CIO. It couldn't be made lower down in the organization.
Hmm.
But for me, it starts with, why do I need to do this? What would be different if I didn't have this? And what would be better because I had this? So what's the
Hmm.
ROI at the very end of the day that on this change? And
Yeah.
if the ROI makes sense, the cost of doing it versus the benefits that we're generating, then we should
Absolutely.
include it in scope. But then there's also timing, because I'm a big believer in MVP. We
Hmm.
learn a lot when we start using a tool, and we learn what is necessary versus interesting or
Hmm.
potentially
Good to
not
have.
necessary.
Core versus good to have. We used to call it core
Yep.
versus good to have, right? So that
Right. And
again,
so
yeah,
roadmaps are great things because you learn and you get more things, and it's a continuous journey. I want to get in, get live, get working with it, and then I'm going to continually make it better with the changes that will make the biggest impact on each decision that we make.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I think the answer is Ashish. An understanding of what is really a must and what is good to have. I think we have some more people typing questions. We got a couple of them. Uh, you know, okay, I'll pick one question from Kapil. Uh, Managing data transfer. Why are we still not able to crack Da Vinci Code? That's a good one, Kapil. Yeah.
Well, I'll leave that one for the ether. It's a good question.
Yeah, you think we'll just take this one also real quick. Last one, Bruce. Thanks, Bruce, for all that. What are the 2 to 3 burning retail problems that are unresolved? And do you see tech and AI playing a role in resolving one of those, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'll give you a really good one, and
yeah.
it's a live example for me. Retail stores don't know what's in the store
Yeah.
right now. Most
Yeah.
don't. And so, in the absence of that information, you're guessing how much to order, how much to replenish, and it results in consumers being disappointed by not finding what they're looking for and having to substitute.
Yeah.
So, technology, in the way of robots in this case, and digitized cameras are able to create a full digital image of a store, translate that into actionable insights. So, the black hole of what's in my store and where is it
Yeah.
is now has a bright light starting to shine in on it. And the power
Mm,
of that data to supply chains, to operations, to marketing people, to merchandising people
yeah.
is tremendous. And so that is for me a great example of technology, AI, agents, and
Coming together.
digitization coming together to create
Mm,
insights that drive a business and produce results in a very tight margin area.
absolutely. Perfect. This is amazing. I think people are giving feedback as well. I think it looks like people enjoyed this session. There are a couple of other questions coming, folks. We will take this to Bruce offline and we'll respond to those. And if there are more questions coming up, feel free to DM us. You know who we are, and we will definitely come back. Again, Bruce, this was wonderful. Really enjoyed, and I'm hoping the leaders and professionals and this who joined or who will hear this recording will find this very useful. So thanks for sharing your learnings.
Thanks for the opportunity, Jazz. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Bruce.
Bye. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.